All right. So for those of us not in Massachusetts, how's the weather?
I think today it's supposed to be sunny, but this morning was foggy and cloudy.
Gross. Maybe?
It's still storming here. Super
really?
rainy. It's really rainy. They call it the Cape of Storms. Fun fact.
All right.
Yeah, they do. It's really, really stormy, but it's pitch black now, and it's only 6:30. When I first started these meetings, it was still light outside at 6:30.
Is it winter? Is it getting to be winter where you are now?
Yeah, I think so. Where are we? What month are we in? May. It's May. Yeah.
May.
Yeah.
Very close.
That's a month that's so connected in my mind to summer that it's impossible for me to imagine any other scenario.
Hi, Caroline.
May could mean cold.
Look at all these new volunteers, Caroline.
What?
Look at all the new volunteers.
Oh, I did see a lot of people when I'm just copying this because I'm sending the Tuesday training thing. Hello, all new volunteers. Oh, lots of you. I'm gonna send the Teaching Tuesday training to Mariah. So
nice.
Kate, you guys, you SME people are gonna be I'm gonna be like texting you all the time. Poor Kate, I was editing something this morning. I was sending her all these messages. What about this? What about this? Because we're updating because of this. We're updating pages on Mass Legal Help. So that was really helpful. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, did Ann Sheldon ever email you something about Mass Legal Help? Because she was like, do you think like Caroline would mind if I emailed her and a request for a Mass Legal Help page? And I'm like, I don't think she'd mind. I was like, email her.
I would love it. I think she did. And then I just can't remember. Thursday, I went into, my brain just burned out. I was falling asleep.
Yeah. I forget what it was, but she was like, I think that would be good, and I don't think there's anything up there. But.
No, I'll definitely double check with her on that, because that sounds familiar, and I just can't remember if I followed through on it or not.
Yeah, and I was like, no, she's not going to mind. Email her.
I would love it. The 1,000 flowers idea didn't really take root.
Caroline, don't scare people away.
Oh, come on. That's why I come.
What was my... I can't remember. I also made terrible
Yeah,
jokes.
so nice to see you.
Yeah.
Matt,
I was telling Matt
back.
I would be excited to see him today.
It's like when you've grown a beard.
I've tried.
What? I haven't seen you in how long?
Several weeks. I don't think quite a month yet, but close.
COVID time, it's like 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh, so weird. Anyways, I think we've got enough people. I think we've got everyone, right?
I think so.
Okay, well, we've just spoken to most of these volunteers at 11.
I think we missed Jack. I think he might have had the wrong time for the meeting. And
I'm sorry, I had a misunderstanding.
So we missed. Yeah, you can talk to me in Slack, and we can catch up.
Definitely.
And you already got you already completed the questionnaire, and I think you also have the volunteer guide as well.
Yes, and the video and all the other resources.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
So this meeting, now I'm not too sure how we should really run this meeting because of the fact that we've got a whole lot of new faces and new volunteers, whether we should do our usual kind of deep dive stand-up where we talk about how everyone, where everyone's at, or whether we should maybe keep it a little bit lighter. I don't know, David, I'm going to take direction from you.
Let's start with light and then see what time we have. And we could do light. People could jump off if it's not before the training, and then jump back on at the training.
Okay. So just a reminder that there's training. I think Matt's giving it today at 1. So excited.
Matt, what are you going to tell us? You tell us how to do order of questions?
Well, it's a consumer debt training. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're going to do conditional logic. Not conditional logic. We're going to do interview flow blocks. So how to control the flow of an interview using a mandatory code block, which isn't necessary, but strongly encouraged.
Okay, Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. I think right now we can talk.
Don't say that, Matt. It's necessary.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you
Ignore the lesson you just learned.
talk assemble.
So I think maybe what we can start with is just the testing. Where we're at with the testing is that I've reviewed the housing TRO tests, and the testing volunteers did a fantastic job identifying issues that needed to be changed. Quentin had actually already changed them because the issues were was specifically the cell and other number and the unit not pulling through. One thing that we still need to test is the cover page. We've done one test on that. So hopefully we test the rest of that this week, the cover sheet. And then by the time the MOU is ready, we'll be ready to launch.
So yeah, we're just waiting for the court they want us to test with first before we do a full launch. But yeah, we have I think I mentioned this on the earlier call today. Caroline and Matt weren't there. We're ready to sign the document. The problem is the court just wants wet signatures, so we're having to pass pieces of paper around.
On our technology project.
Yeah,
So
I suggested DocuSign, but
oh my God, how could you?
The court thinks wet signatures are magic. There's no other explanation.
Come on, people. Come on, people. We're making
Okay,
progress.
so that's where we are with the test in the TRO. 209A, there's been a lot of back and forth on the channel. I think particularly Kate, Caroline, and Quentin. I tried to weigh in a little bit, but I'm not an SME, so I don't know if it was like much help, but maybe we could get a little update from Quentin, Kate, and Caroline, just about where we're at there.
So Caroline had a bunch of language changes that we merged, which are great. I think they make it a lot better. I'm working this morning on incorporating Lily's addenda triggering code. So we'll be able to have, people with more than 3 children use the form, for example. And that's making good progress. I think an outstanding issue, which needs a lot of work still, is review screens. So maybe someone this week would like to learn how to do review screens, and I can shadow them and help them do that, both as a way to spread the knowledge of that and make a little bit more progress on that part of the form. Otherwise, our issue list is getting shorter and shorter. I think we're in good shape.
Good.
We can probably fix that if you want.
do we think we'll have private beta this week?
I think we could do that, right? So with the caveat that they may have to do some cleanup on the form. I think that's I think we are there now. The issue that they may not be able to get the addenda triggered is relatively minor, I think, because I think it's not going to come up on that many of the forms.
Do we have court selection on 209A?
There is just, no, we don't have approval from the court yet to offer like any fancy court selection yet. So there's just the drop-down menu that shows all of the courts. There's no validation on that yet either. That stops someone from choosing a court they can't use.
Working on, we were working with, I can't remember who we were working with, but you start to type it in and then the court goes in.
That was for prior cases on the affidavit of care.
Okay, all right.
With the idea that people might like vaguely remember the family court, something,
Right. So right now it's just
a full list of 130 courts you can drop down from. Yeah.
And I'll just remind, we're private beta with advocates being the ones who are the.
Yeah. No, but I just was curious where they, just so that when we give it to advocates, we tell them, we know that this is awkward and we're going to work on it. I mean, I think that for advocates, I think that is going to be, not an issue, but something we need to tell them ahead of time that's something they're going to have to deal with.
And then another thing, so you said that cleanup on their end of the form. What do you mean? Like, are they going to be able to actually edit the form after they've finished?
So the forms on the 209A aren't flat currently. They're still editable.
Okay. Even once they've been signed, because that was an issue that we had with just, it was a nightmare.
What I'm going to do is, for all the new volunteers, I'm going to say keep a running tally of weird questions or like what in the heck is flat PDFs, and we'll loop back and we'll let you we'll let you ask any questions you have
Yeah.
to make sense of this
absolutely.
conversation.
It does feel like, I know it feels like a lot, and I think I said this to Mike before when he joined last week, when I was like, you really are being thrown in the deep end here. But within a week, it's gonna make sense. I hope. The other thing is that John's not on this call, but is there anything else that we wanted to talk about? 298 Toyota. We've wanting to identify some easy forms, in terms of easy in the sense that they are few fields and no tables, and forms that are really relatively easy for newbies to run through and try and create an interview for. Kate's been really good at that. I suggested one that probably wasn't very helpful. Quentin,
What did you suggest?
No, I take it back. I think it is
content.
not as hard to use as I was thinking. So the thing about the housing forms is that we have there's no standard court forms. So we're not stuck with using the PDF. And if there's places where we're like, oh, we might need an addendum soon, we should probably just start out with a Word document for those. Okay. And Caroline is the keeper of most of those forms, actually. Either Caroline or Annette.
Yeah, well, they're on my.
Do we
use them in Word?
The Word format.
Yeah.
Right.
So tell me what you want, and I'll send it to you in Word.
What you really, really want? Just
So what?
If you need.
So what other does that cover lightly? The topics that does that cover well enough or deeply enough for this session? Those topics, the Q&A, or?
I guess it's just, does anyone have any blockers?
Blockers.
If someone wants to volunteer now to learn about the review screens, we can block out a time. We can do the scheduling later, but
how hard is it?
It's relatively rote. I mean, you might run into some issues, and we can carve off the easy ones for someone to do, I think.
And so, Quentin, let's be clear. Are we opening up for volunteering to all our new volunteers as well?
Yeah.
I don't see why not. I think maybe at least you could shadow it and see how it goes. We might say.
Or pair programming it.
Yeah.
So one of the things we should be explicit about is, well, let's try to define some terms. So pair programming, one of the things we're probably going to do with all the new folks is when we have you go through this sort of vision of standing up a form, we're going to ask that you do that with someone else, so that you can both jump on Zoom and share your screens or some such, and then go through it together. And that would be so that would be two of the new folks working together, or maybe a new folk with an older folk. But we'll figure that out. So we want to give you support.
And it's also sometimes done with two experienced programmers, so that, you know, the knowledge is held by more than one person, and there's collaboration on the you know, structure that you're creating.
And it can just be a good way to make progress quickly, because one person might be blocked on a different part than another person. Even when you're experienced, you can have someone to talk to about how to move on to the next part.
But do we have any like brave folks who are willing to say, you just said some gobbledygook like 5 minutes ago, and I have no idea what you mean, and we can give you some more context and such.
Tyler.
Yeah. I mean, exactly.
All right. And maybe with Kate, it sounds like?
Sure, yeah, I can, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, let's pick out a time. We can do that on Slack, so we're not taking everybody else.
Oh, I thought there was a question. Oh, all right.
I think he was volunteering.
You're asking a question. Oh, you were volunteering, or it was a question?
No, it wasn't a direct question. It was more so just, I guess, being
Volunteering.
caught up on all of that conversation that was occurring.
Sure.
Oh,
right,
Tyler,
so
were you volunteering or no?
Oh, no, sorry. Maybe I misunderstood your question.
I think he was responding to my question as opposed to your question for volunteers.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
We made the classic mistake to tell you not to do, to ask compound questions during your cross. So let's dive back into that then. So what parts were fuzzy about what we? So you just sort of like gotta see real time, like this would how normal conversation would be, like blah 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 thing. Which of those things didn't make sense? You can say everything. That's fair.
Yeah, pretty much most of it, and maybe it's the thing I learn as I go. And I'm definitely a hands-on learner, so I'm sure that's how it'll be for me.
maybe you could just explicitly work through the narration of when you run the sort of agenda. What is it you're trying to do? And then we can use the things we just talked about as concrete examples of how you're doing that.
So what we usually do, well, yeah.
Go ahead, sorry. Nope, go ahead.
What we usually do is at the moment we're still working on 2 discrete packages of forms. Or one form is the housing TRO, the temporary restraining order, and the other one is a package of forms called the 209A restraining order. And we're working on those 2 things. In the future, we're going to have a couple more form packets or forms to be submitted that people are working on, probably this week actually. The first step is usually, does anybody have anything that's blocking them? Is anybody struggling with anything? And at that point, you can say, yes, I hit a block over here. Can we maybe work through this? And then we use this time to do that. Otherwise, we just use it as a time to update everybody on what we're doing, or where we're at with the project, which is what I did now with the TRO and the 209A. So as I said, these terms will become second nature sooner than later. Like you do pick it up relatively quickly. Especially from me not coming from Massachusetts jurisdiction, it was all foreign the first week, and then after that it's just you pick it up. There's no better way to say that. Another thing that I was saying is that tomorrow I'm hoping to do a Slack. I spoke to Caroline about it, and do a Slack introduction where we talk about how we're using Slack and how to the tips that I've learned over the last 2 months. And I think that in that time, we'll also use a lot more of the terminology, and it'll be a lot slower, so that if people are, maybe in a smaller setting and not recorded, if they're not feeling comfortable with the term, or if they don't really know how things work, then they can, voice their concerns there instead. So I'll let you know about a time once I've liaised with certain people, see who's available, the most times. And maybe we'll do 2 sessions, I'm not sure. But yeah, so that's
and will you record those?
Yeah,
or
I will
or you
record
said
them,
not
as long as
recorded,
people
so
are.
maybe not.
Yeah, the thing is, I just feel like people, it is intimidating to be,
Yeah.
I don't know, especially as a law student, you never say, I don't know, right? That was in my blood. Like, you just don't say that. So, as David said earlier in our earlier meeting, is that you definitely can. We're all, I always keep saying this, none of us are, well, there are experts amongst us, there are, but none of us are experts in what we're doing right now. We're all figuring this out as we go. So we're all basically, we're just a little bit leveled up because we've been working on this for 2 months. So don't feel, shy or embarrassed. It's just, if something sticks out with you that you don't understand, you can say like, whoa, what's going on? What does this mean? Can you just give me some background? So I don't know about tomorrow's session, if we should record it. Maybe what I'll do is I'll see who's available, who jumps on that call, and we can just have a discussion about whether it would be worthwhile recording it, or if people would feel more comfortable having it unrecorded.
Huh.
Does that
Kate,
sound good?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Yeah. Kate, I was just gonna, because I'm guessing that there are 3 or 4 people who still don't know what a 209A is. Can you just sort of explain what that is?
Yeah.
Because that's sort of really it's one of our primary things right now.
A 209A is probably what you'd commonly call a restraining order. It's mostly in domestic violence situations between people who have some kind of relationship with each other, family or dating, marriage type relationship. It's an order that the court gives you on an emergency basis to get the other person to do things like stop abusing you, stay away, don't contact you, get rid of your guns, things like that. It's a packet of a bunch of forms, which has made this, I think, a longer process than anyone anticipated. It's not just one simple form, despite the fact that it's supposed to be something that people can like walk in and get kind of instantaneously. It's like 7 forms and they're kind of a mess. So Caroline and I are kind of the 2 people on this call that know a lot of the substance stuff about restraining orders. So if you have questions, you can ask us.
Yes, and Caroline's been working on this for years.
Years. The other thing about questions is that you're
decades. Not quite.
close to decades. The other thing about questions is that you're more than welcome to direct message, you know, in privately. But if it's a question, it might be a question that somebody else has or somebody else would like to know the answer, you know, for. So it's also encouraged to message in the channels. And I always say this, it takes a lot of getting used to messaging, like, you know, a whole channel in fear that you might look stupid or something, you know, but it's not. People might have that same question, or, you know, it might benefit somebody in the future. So it is always a good idea just to ask them in the channel as opposed to just DMing people. That's not to say that you can't DM people, you know, about, especially about, you know, scheduling stuff and things. But yeah, it's always recommended to rather do it on the channel, especially where it might be helpful for people in the future. I think we're actually done in 20 minutes. I don't think there's anything else besides the fact that I'll just schedule the Slack call tomorrow in the channel. I realized that I'm scheduling something for Slack on Slack. So if you guys don't know how to use it, please, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I think I'll be able to add everybody in this thing. So you should get a notification about it. Otherwise, if you have a problem, you can email David. Or just chat. You can just chat. You can just, you know, on chat on Zoom, you can just tell me, like, just privately. You can just say, I don't know how to do it. Can you help me, please? Okay, that's all I have from my side. Anybody else have anything they want to add?
Well, in that case, then we're gonna officially like call the end of the stand-up. The training will start in 10 minutes with Matt. But then I think right now, and everyone is welcome to hang around in the room because we're gonna do the training here in 10 minutes, where you can pop out and freshen up your tea or whatnot. But I think we're gonna just maybe dive to see if there's any deeper issues. Normally we do this after a call and people would drop off and then wouldn't come back on for the training. But since it's Tuesday, here we are. So yeah, I guess this is like permission for you to like be like, I don't have to listen to anything they're saying for the next 10 minutes. So if you want to like surf the web, get a drink,
eat a cookie,
Dave. Yeah,
or a carrot.
Okay,
Whatever
so
one does.
then deeper issues. We're gonna have a testing call at 2, I think, Michelle.
Yeah, one at 2 and one at 4, because once again we're split between 2 groups who
Okay,
can't
so
necessarily meet at the same time.
I've put on an agenda.
But
now this is maybe just stuff that we're trying to work the kinks out of testing, and, you know, solidify the process and maybe make sure that everyone's understanding the instructions. And, you know, so Michelle's put a hold on tests running and test writing today while we wait for the process to get solidified, or, you know, clarity to be reached in this call.
Because we're making a bunch of templates. So if we make a bunch of templates after we've decided what the templates are going to look like, that's going to, not templates, but like we're starting a series of tests. And so we
like
just
pulling the cart before the horse or something, isn't that
something? But also, like, the TRO has seemed fairly stable, and like the 209A is still being worked on. So this seemed like a good time to go, let's pause, get the house in order a bit more.
Look at the instructions, look at the templates, look at the language. Lance and John have created some standardized language that Michelle has reviewed.
We're trying to make it as simple to jump into testing as we can, because this is something I suspect people will jump in and out of. Or I sure hope so, because we need people to jump in here. So
it's something like what I think in the beginning, what Quentin was saying, if people only have half an hour or an hour to do something, testing is something that people can jump in and out of. In the sense that, say you only have an hour free, you can jump in and do an hour testing. Not test writing, but test running. You know, if there's a test to be run, basically you run through the interview and you go through the test.
Maybe it's helpful. Maybe it's helpful just to provide some context, since there are a bunch of new people who are just listening in.
So when we change the code on a test, it's quite possible to break
testing?
What? Sorry. When we change the code on an interview, like we're coding an interview and you click on buttons and you ask questions, it's all working well. And then you change the code and you commit it, and you will tell you how all that goes. You put it on the server, and then it actually turns out there is a bug in it that you didn't realize, that now it skips one of the questions.
Sorry, Michelle, I'm just going to interrupt you because I think people are coming in here without knowing a lot of those terms.
Oh,
So
really? Which one? So
Well, like
committing,
yeah.
committing,
right,
and
that was that I tried to erase that one. So,
So
you,
I think
you
what
changed
people-
the code, you saved
no,
the
but I
code.
think what Kate's asking is what is testing? And testing is basically running through the interview and making sure that what's supposed to happen is happening, and that the PDF at the end is populated in the way we need it to be populated. So that the form is filled out in the way in which it's supposed to be filled out. The checkboxes that we want checked, the text is in the right place, things are getting pulled through and populated in the correct way. So that's what when we say testing, that's what we are referring to. I just think that it's sorry. I think Michelle, sorry, the committing and that's all very
Yeah, I got too in the weeds. What I was trying to describe is that it's a methodical way of doing it. So you have a checklist. You go down and you go, when I pressed this, I did go to the right page. The right, information was there. The PDF got the right fields filled out. You check in every field that got filled out correctly, and that creates a history so that if there is a bug that happened or an error that happened, someone can come back and look at that history and follow exactly what the person did to recreate that same issue. Because without those exact steps, we're not guaranteed that we can recreate an issue that someone reports. So that really helps us track down and thoroughly make sure that any particular version of an interview is still working. Because that's kind of what I was trying to do, but I was thinking about it from the wrong perspective. My apologies. Does that make sense? Thumbs up, thumbs down, middle. All right.
It makes sense to me, and I've been involved in testing since
I just realized my thumb up wasn't very useful either. Sorry.
This is mostly to new people.
Yeah, but I realized now that they thought we were all talking about important stuff, and then we decided to
talk about. Yeah. All right.
I think the point was I just thought it would be helpful if we could have some context while we were talking about other stuff, so that if people were listening, they could incorporate it.
Sure.
Can I ask, somewhat related to testing, not totally, what 209A forms are like still having big changes done? Because it's hard to know what's ready for testing without knowing that.
I think the main one is just the affidavit of care and custody. We're moving the address questions around. I don't think there are other really big reorgs that are happening or planned.
So Caroline's affidavit edits, those are pretty set?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Oh, and one other thing that we identified is moving the children names up front.
Yeah.
So that will change the order of that, but not substantively, really.
And also defendant, what was it? Defendant?
Plaintiff's
Gender,
birth date's going to
gender,
move.
defendant
And gender of the defendant, yeah. So those are
Right.
4 kind of more substantive things, I guess. Sorry. I guess there's a number of these, but the big one really is the affidavit of care and custody. The other ones should be pretty understandable when they change. People could be confused by different behavior.
Okay.
So yeah. Just to go back to the testing thing, we're having that meeting at 2. We've got the agenda, which just sets out certain things that we wanted to clarify and hopefully get in place before we onboard some of the volunteers here to testing, so that the structure is a little bit more stable. Each day gets better and better, and the template gets better. There's improvements getting made, but I think this call is important to stabilize it even more before more volunteers come on.
Yeah, and Quint and I talked a bit about the 209A and issues in the 209A, and I think we settled on, if someone wants to work on an issue that's listed, just communicate very clearly about it, because Maeve and Quentin basically have hold of what's going on. So just to make sure you're not duplicating work, or that you're not doing something that's everybody. Well, not everybody who might think of.
Oh, she made Caroline. Okay, sorry. I was like, I don't have what.
Oh, did I say Maeve? I'm sorry. Apparently,
I
words aren't my thing
anything.
Today.
What are you talking about?
I refer you to my MRIs again. Okay, so Caroline and Quentin kind of have hold of that, and So if you do want to work on an issue, just communicate very clearly about that and get confirmation, just in case it's something that's tied up with something they're working on, or that they're going to change soon, or it's just more connected to the interview than you might expect.
Mhm.
That's all.
And with that being said, I think it's one-ish.
time.
Yeah, I think we're Matt's about to go on here. So I don't know if we're supposed to like do like a bullhorn or something to bring
Yeah,
back
that's what I'm
all the
also like.
folks. That,
Ding,
oh, well,
ding,
Michael
ding.
just like screen back on. Okay. Maybe I don't know if
Hey,
I
come
know
on down, kind of thing.
Caroline had shared the link with someone.
You
that I
could
think was
could
gonna
post in the
join.
channel. You could post
yeah.
in the channel
That's
and
a good
say
idea.
at channel everybody, lesson starting.
Mhm.
So
Are we with volunteers? We're starting with you just asking people to start with testing, right?
Well, right now everyone's learning skills. So well,
It's a skill up week.
Yeah,
An
we're
upskill week.
skilling up.
So I just wanted to put in a plug for one more 209A page when we start doing new, easier forms.
okay, maybe put that in the discussion Quentin was having, right, on the channel.
Is it the pet one, Caroline? Because that was actually, yeah.
Kate already
kind
raised
of have
that.
consensus on that. I think Kate mentioned it too.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then hopefully just to put a pin on this for project managers at all, let's see if we can come up with a list today sometime of at least 4 forms, because then that would allow our new volunteers to pair up and work on those forms over the rest of the week.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have
And
to go
Caroline,
to. I wanted to stay. I have to go to a real job meeting.
I understand.
Good luck.
Bye.
Yeah.
Caroline, had you saved the shared the link with someone you said we were expecting, or?
Yeah, in fact, she said she was coming. Let me just see
All
where
right.
she is, because
Oh, well, it's only 1:01. So
1 o'clock
maybe Matt's,
exactly.
you know, stalls
well,
for
I'm
30
always
seconds.
late for her, but she's never late. So let me just double check where she is. She
All right.
says,
I'm going to be quiet, and we're going to give the speaking stick, as it were, over to Matt. So you have the conch.